Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Mitchell from Australia, 10th Man, Arwin, Refracted Curvature, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Greetings.
Yo!
Good evening.
Good morning, good evening. Hello. Hello, Discord.
Hey, Nathan, how you doing?
I'm very well, thanks for asking. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Is that a physical limitation that's set out by some maths? 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet?
That's right, it's the thing they claim boats and stuff fall over at the horizon.
No.
Physical limitation to your view. Yeah.
No, that's been debunked since January 1, 2020.
I know. Boats go over refraction now, eh? Sod all to do with physical limitation. That could be anywhere. I mean, we only have one horizon, and the horizon in the begging the question. Proof of nothing. Perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator, claiming to prove where Earth curve is, would put it at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. And what do you know? Black Swan. The distance to that horizon's way beyond the geometric physical limitations that would block boats and buildings. The horizon is not Earth curve.
You know, Nathan, they don't like when you say boats falling over an edge. You know that, right?
I wonder why.
Totally dislike
Yeah, when
that.
they levelled that at us via the Flat Earth Society with a pizza pie Earth and a boat falling over it, what do you know? It's because it's their weakest part of their argument. They've got a boat going over a fraction. I mean, Earth curve. Formerly Earth curve. Before 2020, it was Earth curve that was physically blocking boats and buildings, and you could measure that and quantify it with a photograph that has perspective in it, compared to a non-perspective physical size that's actual only, that doesn't change with distance, and how many feet and inches you're going to miss off the bottom of something when you don't account for angular relationships. Well, that required a physical horizon getting in the way. Well, we debunked that physical horizon, Earth curve edge horizon that's not physical anymore, isn't going to be called Earth curve. Won't be giving you R either. Any evidence of the R value?
Can I use a flat plane to get it?
To get the R value, you will require a flat plane, as Earth is flat, and any measurements you take from the Earth we're standing on will be flat Earth measurements, ipso facto. So, no. That would just be proving a flat plane, would it not?
But yeah. But I mean, after that.
Have the ballers even actually figured out what it would be like to do all these things on a ball? Because they never really seem to get to that point. They always seem to, like, hide how it's actually tied into a flat plane. But have they ever just honestly tried to do all these things on an actual ball model?
You sound great today, by the way, Arwin. Fantastic mic work.
What?
You sound great. Yesterday you sounded horrendous. Today you sound fantastic.
Ah, okay, cool.
To Arwen's statement there, they always measure it from the flat plane, because even in the celestial navigation books, it's coming from an equatorial plane that's flat. It's never from the surface.
Now, I get that, in actual measurements, but have they even, like, theoretically worked out what it would actually be like doing those things on a ball?
Well, then you would
Yeah.
have diverging
They just
zeniths,
seem
and it
to
wouldn't.
suggest
I heard a
they're
yes.
doing that,
I
but
heard
they
a yes
don't
from Mitch.
actually do that.
Hold on, I had a yes from Mitch. And before you go, Mitch,
Yeah,
shout out to Jean has a question, or Jean has a question. How tall is Neil? Does John have his camo hat on? Thank you very much for the super chat. I don't know if you want to answer
5'6".
those before Mitch goes. How tall are you, Neil?
5'6".
Do you have your camo hat on, John?
That is so just prejudicial against Southern people to say that we all wear camo hats and like we're all rednecks. Yes, I do have my camo hat on, yes.
And Italians, because he knows I'm short.
A cotton picking outrage. I'm 18% redneck.
I'm a Southern person, and my neck is thoroughly red.
I have to tell the truth though, because a carpet I had to cut it 5'6" the other day, and when I stood it up, it was slightly taller than me. So I think gravity's pulling me down.
Or
I
you
might
lie
be
about your
shorter.
height. One or the other.
It says it on my license.
Okay, Mitch is waiting. Oh, there's another super chat. Sorry, Mitch. Shout out to Arwin and Flat Earth Early Bird Show. Spanner. Okay. And you too, Nathan. Okay, Paul, thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. And indeed, shout out to Arwin, ARWIJN, and his Flat Earth Early Bird Show that goes out sometimes an hour, sometimes 2 hours before this show. So if you know what time this show's on in your local area, then an hour before, that's when Flat Earth Early Bird runs. So be here or be sphere for Arwin show. Hopefully Mitch will actually get to respond if he hasn't lost track completely with all the super chats and talk of Neil's height and camo hats.
Yep, it's actually 2 hours before your show, but also an hour before.
Indeed, both are technically true.
So to answer Arwen's question, they actually try to do it on a globe. Yeah, they keep trying to do it on a globe. There was an R claim in the pre-show, which you have to subscribe to Nathan Oakley channel to listen to. But unfortunately, for every time they try to do it on what they think is a globe beneath their feet, they have to keep inserting that damn horizontal baseline underneath their elevation angles. So yeah, they do try to do it, Arwen, but they keep having to have that horizontal baseline.
They have no choice.
Right, so it's never successful then, right? Because you're supposed
no, it's
to
always
be
successful.
navigating right on that globe, so that doesn't really work out then. Or
Well,
does
it's
it?
always successful. They're always measuring an elevation angle. They just don't do it on a globe. It just isn't required. The curve of the Earth, the surface just isn't curved. It cannot be.
Yeah, but then now you're talking about the real world again, which they then think is on a globe. But I'm asking, like, have they ever actually like tried to simulate on it on an actual globe? How would that work out?
You can't, because you can't get an angle measurement with a curved baseline. So that's why they always do it off of a horizontal plane.
That's why they go to the middle of the earth, right? Tent.
Yeah, that's all the pictures are down. to
But
the
you
middle
don't
of the earth.
actually do that, though. You'd only do that in the model.
Well, there was a traffic jam about 8 miles down. That's about all.
8
Well, Rob-
miles.
Yeah, they do it. They do it, but they're actually doing it on the surface. They just say they're going to the center of the earth, cutting the earth in half and using it as a flat plane.
Nah, I mean, I've said it all along. Black market elevation angles measurements are available. Just hit me up on Patreon. Just don't let anybody else private message me and say, I need an elevation angle measurement to make any globe claim ever. Please, can I have one? Yeah, obviously bung me a $5.
John, you were going to say Rob Durham?
Yeah, Rob Durham, I thought his demonstration of syntax error when he tried to pull a angle from a sphere surface was that was a pretty good attempt. Don't you think?
Absolutely. The CAD program said impossible. You need a straight line. Syntax error. Can't work off a curved baseline.
In that case, right, obviously this presentation that we got in the pre-show from Mitch, it's got a 90-degree marker at the GP on a curved surface. I mean, somebody somewhere has had to draw that in, right? because no self-respecting CAD program would allow that. Computer says no to this 90 degree off a curve. That's not 90 degrees, lads. Are you dumb? Do you not know what 90 degrees is? Obviously, whoever put this together, is it Wally? Bless his cotton socks. What, Dumbo? This isn't 90 degrees, you Dumbo. Come on the show and we'll educate you about what 90 degrees is, you little sod. Because this isn't it. 90 degrees is not a line that's straight meeting a curved line. You complete buffoons. Yeah, you'll need a flat earth to get that 90 degrees. That's what you'll need. You'll need a straight line here, not a curved line. That won't work. Yeah, what's this, an elevation angle measurement? Oh, yeah, you'll need a flat plane for that. Yeah, your globe's based on them. Moving on. Any evidence you can get an elevation angle from a curved adjacent?
No, it's impossible. I was going to say I added some more slides if you on that point as well as your current question.
Well, after you take the measurement of the flat plane and get the elevation angle, you can do some mathematics incorrectly and make some false assumptions to turn anything into a sphere that's a flat plane.
Wait, who was that guy that said, Nathan, I'll give you the flat plane. I'll give you a flat earth. What was that about that time?
Oh,
this
that
is
was
way
Conspiracy
before.
Cats. Conspiracy
Go
Cats.
go one up from the picture of the sextant there to 4 quadrants, Nathan.
Okay.
So what was the last thing you said, John? That you turned your kitchen into a sphere? How'd you do that?
Well, it's after the measurement, after utilizing the flat plane to get the measurement, all you have to do is misapplied mathematics, and you can turn anything into a sphere.
Before you go on, Tent, I want to add something to that, which is to say that we had a guest that came and, taking that principle of acquisition of elevation angle measurements from a flat plane, you can turn Earth, as John has just pointed out, with a few assumptions, into a spherical surface. Obviously, it invalidates the original angle measurement. That goes without saying. But you can do that. But equally, you can turn it into a dodecahedron, or a triangle, or a pyramid, or whatever the guy had in his long list of models you can derive from flat plane elevation angle measurements, right, John? So you can't say, well, that's a valid extrapolation, even though it invalidates the original angle measurement, when you can do it in all sorts of different shapes, right?
Right. You're not dealing with the shape when you're taking the angle measurement. You're dealing with an aspect of the surface. No shape involved in that.
Yeah, but even that guy, he had all the shapes that he could make the Earth, but he wouldn't say what his belief was. I think he still said he believed it was a sphere.
Well, that guy's point was to go for the draw and say,
Yeah.
Then consensus would rule in the case of the draw. Like, he wasn't wanting to acknowledge I think he even said, well, I'm just not going to change my mind right here.
Yeah, that's what he did. Anyway, the slide you got up right now shows 4 quadrants. This is a circle, not a sphere. And they want you to think it's a sphere. And if you think it's a sphere, then you got to have that tangent plane. And what do you have on that tangent plane? You have a 90, which is impossible on a sphere. So this whole drawing is excusing itself from geometry and angle measurements, except in the Nautical Almanac, all the measurements are derived from the center of the Earth, where if it is a 2-dimensional circle, which it is, you can see it's got 490. There's 490s there, 4 quadrants. And that's why when you take the elevation of a star from a flat plane, because that's the only way you're going to get an elevation angle, you subtract it from 90, leaving you the complement or co-altitude times 60, which is your distance in nautical miles. Always a subtraction from 90. The highest maximum number to subtract is 90. 90 kills them. Next slide. Picture of a sextant showing you exactly on the surface of the Earth how it would work. It shows the sun. It shows the angle of the elevation angle. It shows the complement angle, which would be times the 60 nautical miles. The third slide shows a plane and it shows basically what you're doing. The sun has a zenith position. Directly under the sun, somewhere on Earth, is the hotspot or the GP, where the sun is directly over. That, to the observer, is the 90. That is part of the elevation angle. The elevation angle does not give you distance. Once you have the elevation angle, you have to subtract from 90 the remaining numbers. The co-altitude, the complement of the angle, is what is times 60 to give you the zenith distance. As you can see, there's a zenith from the sun hitting the Earth, and there's the vertical of the observer, not divergent zeniths. You cannot have celestial navigation work with diverging zeniths. It's in all their pictures, it works this way. Parallel zeniths, flat roof on top, flat baseline on the bottom. Last slide. Last slide shows the celestial sphere, their model of their presupposed globe, and one of the quadrants on the right. And then you see the plane, the equatorial plane is kind of on a side angle so that you can get this angle. And there's the altitude, which is the elevation, and there's the co-altitude times 60 to give you the distance in nautical miles. It does not work without a flat plane. You need a horizontal. And let's finally put to rest the eye-line horizontal achieved by an artificial horizon. That is fine. We agree with that. But it must match the Earth's baseline, because in the marine section where you actually aim at the horizon, where you're not using an artificial means to get a flat baseline, you have to do height of eye correction, get your eyeballs on sea level, which means flat Earth. Welcome to Flat Earth.
10th man, you're an assassin, man.
A couple of bits of not exactly housekeeping, because we've got our own specific housekeeping here, but in that regards, Godzilla37 says, if you listen to FED, it's Flat Earth Debate, you'd know bathhouses prove it's flat. But if you listen to the Early Bird show, you'd know bathhouses will help us win the war. Okie dokie. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Godzilla. Also, with, well, there was a second ago, almost 100 people watching. Thank you very much to all of you who smashed the share button. That's the only reason there's a substantial audience here at all, because people have smashed that share button. If you've just arrived here, thank you very much for joining. A very warm welcome. Please share the show. Any more on equatorial planes?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing about Eratosthenes. He didn't make use of a horizon in his measurement. All he used was a flat plane, a stick, and an angle measurement using the shadow or obelisk, whatever it was. The ground underneath had to be flat to get that angle measurement.
Mitchell put up a slide that we've seen. You want to go to that, and we can round off this question?
Okay, it's up.
Yeah, as you can see here, they've got a right angle triangle from the sailboat to the zenith of the sun. I mean, look, we're not making this up. This is what they're telling you it has to be. But then they got this dingleberry. You could see that the baseline of the right angle triangle is now a chord going through the Earth. And as Brian has said, if you stretch out that arc above it, you'll never be the same distance. So this is not how it works on a spherical surface. It's impossible. But let's read something here to the very right. Whenever you take a sight of the sun, you are one corner of a large triangle. It's a right triangle. It is completely over and said and done right there, because this is what they're fighting. They want to attribute all of this stuff to FED making up stuff. These are citations. We have references. You just put up your thoughts, your feelings. You never cite anything from celestial navigation. We do all the citations. It embarrasses you, anti-flat earthers. If you go to the section in the middle, now you probably know great circle arcs can be measured in degrees. And it's a happy fact that in this bulgy bottom triangle, is there such a thing as a bulgy bottom triangle? The number of degrees in the arc defined by the bulge is equal to the number of degrees in the angle at its top where the sun is, because this is a right triangle. Who in the world would say a bulgy bottom triangle is a right triangle, and you got a minus from 90. These people are not thinking when they're writing.
When it says they got a minus from 90, obviously their nonsense about diverging zeniths is immediately eradicated in that one statement.
Yep. Contradiction. This is what I'm saying. When you read their books, they're trying to sell you the globe version, but all along they have to tell you how it's done, and the contradictions are plentiful. And you just have to have a critical mind and know some basic things to know that you're being lied to here, and that these people have been lied to.
So all along they're telling you it's flat.
Yeah, and they're showing you it's flat.
Shout out to Mike808 for the super chat. Just gives me money. Or you said something too rude that YouTube wouldn't allow to have published. Thank you much, Lee, either way. Really appreciate the support, Mike. Thank you very much for the super chat. Also, another shout out to Godzilla37. He says, see, you'd know what I meant if you'd listened to the Early Bird show. Okay, you catch me out. I didn't watch it today. What do you want? Thank you for the super chat, Godzilla37. I encourage all to watch the Flat Earth Early Bird show, I assure you. Can we move on with housekeeping?
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Move on.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Well, you need a container. That's a fact. What's the container? That's up for debate.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No. Well, what did I just hear? Right, I'm busy cleaning. Did Neil just deny a dome?
He said what the container is up for debate. He didn't deny a dome. He's entitled to his belief in the dome.
Correct. And when I say dome, it's to get under Nathan's skin.
No, it isn't. It's because you believe in a dome.
Well, it is a dome.
There you go. Totally proved myself right within 10 seconds.
Well,
I just thought all of that was it's finally paid off, and Neil had got it correct, exactly correct, the correct way that prevents any rebuttal, unless you want to attack natural law. Brilliant. So I bothered to jump in, Neil. I was impressed, mate.
Yeah, I'm going to say that. My belief is it's a dome, but in the debate, I'm not going to say that.
Prove your dome.
But we're not
Right.
here to prove beliefs, are we?
No.
Neil can hold that belief.
Devil's advocate. Just playing the baller that would take advantage of that in a heartbeat.
All right, smash him then.
Prove your dome. What dome? You seen the dome? Where's the edge, Neil? What's it look like? What's it made of? What colour is it?
Beyond Antarctica.
Oh, yeah? When did you go beyond Antarctica, Neil? Who says it's
There's
beyond
ice
Antarctica? Where's
wall
your
there.
documented evidence beyond Antarctica, my ass?
Admiral Byrd.
Admiral Byrd, eh? So when they tell us it's a ball in a sky vacuum, it's all good. Yeah, to just debunk that. But what, you'll cherry pick Admiral Byrd as your citation, will you? All right, I see. Powers that should not be are suddenly the powers that should be when you need to prove a dome. What an outrage.
Listen, there's an ice wall.
Oh,
Even
yeah.
Anthony believes it.
Well, you know, the military is compromised when you make a bird an admiral.
Shout out to Mike808, who says, just support. I come in peace. Thank you very much indeed for the super chats. Really appreciate it.
Well, you know, the dome is another one of those false dichotomies they want to try to pull us in with, you know, because, you know, like Neil says, it's his belief, but we're not here to talk about beliefs. We want to, you know, like to have some evidence, right? So that's if they can get you to claim a dome, then they can attack that. And it's always better to be attacking the other person's position than defending your own.
Yep, like we discussed yesterday. Better to be attacking the notion of incoherent dielectric acceleration being the cause of obviously everything having a downward bias. Obviously everything's got a downward bias. But let's attack your nonsense about incoherent dielectric acceleration. Right? Because obviously we're going to stack these up as a true dichotomy, and the winner will be gravity, obviously. All science, hail gravity. Therefore I'll win. Let's not focus on the fact that there is no downward bias to be arguing about, and there is no phenomena. It's admitted by even their own pseudoscience priests. Let's just brush past the fact that there is no gravity to look at and stack it up against something that does actually have effects that we can study.
I remember when Whitsitt debated Brian on this, that he says, no, it's relative density is the highest and most amount of why things happen the way they do. And this thing is very weak and negligible. So why all the attention to something that's so weak and negligible? I mean, that's an admission that they just want to squeeze something in there that doesn't belong in there.
It's been put out for
I told
us.
you, it's not over yet.
It was at the table, at the Feast of Nonsense when we got here at Flat Earth. That's what was on the table for us to scoff down. Right? With all sorts of pseudoscience backing it.
True.
Well, you know, the incoherent dielectric acceleration has some validity to it. Not the downward bias part, but the incoherent dielectric acceleration has validity to it. If, as a heliocentrist, you can get them comparing their valid explanation to your, you know, unicorn farts, you're all of a sudden stealing validity because they're the ones comparing it. So you've snuck something into the conversation that doesn't exist, and you're arguing about which one's a better explanation. It's genius.
Well put. It's genius, and it is fought for by the flat earthers. They really want to be Professor Incoherent Dielectric Acceleration for some reason. And all they're doing is suckling on the same pseudoscience teat that the nonsense heliocentric model's been brought up on. Because they've claimed science with some of these ether drag tests where there is none. It's like you're just falling prey to the same nonsense. If you knew what science was, you'd realise how you were being swindled and swindling people with it. Telling them you got scientific experimentation when you spin a dolly and fire some lights. It's total nonsense. It's not science. But they want to claim it as science, so it parallels nicely with the pseudoscience claims of the heliocentrist when there's a discussion going on. Everybody's all under the understanding that as long as we talk about this and we've done a bit of tech, we've got a little contraption to spin, then we're talking science, aren't we, lads? And everybody in the crowd on both sides cheers. Yeah, our science first, your science. And I'd step in and go, excuse me, none of you have got science. And everybody turns around instantly and says, stone him!
Well, if you claim you have science, shouldn't you be able to at least get to the first step?
What, observe a natural phenomena occurring? Gravity doesn't have that. Nicely, concisely rounded up, Neil.
I only joined because I wanted to comment on what John had just said. Just quoting John's words, he said, the incoherent dielectric part has got some validity to it. There is a slither of incoherent dielectric acceleration, but it's not proportionate to mass. And the amount of credibility or validity that we give to the overall claim has to be proportionate to mass. Otherwise, it's not.
What claim? Who's making that claim? Why does it have to be proportional to mass? So it can stack up in a false dichotomy against gravity, Anthony, by any chance?
Well, because if it's not proportionate to mass, then the effect is that negligible that it isn't the little kick that is required to move a locomotive by a baby, for example, because the baby would give the little kick, but the locomotive doesn't move. So that little kick needs to be proportionate to mass for it to represent reality. Otherwise, babies could push locomotives, and that would be the incoherent dielectric acceleration.
Incoherent dielectric acceleration, as a separate subject, where is this quantification with mass required in the descriptions or useful application of that effect? Where is it quantified against mass, and for what purpose? And why is it stacked up against it in our arena?
Mass. It's not quantified against mass.
So the point being, you weren't here yesterday, that the only reason you're suggesting it, what do you know, was right on cue. There's a flat earther talking about a juxtaposition between incoherent dielectric acceleration and something that's got mass associated. Like gravity, you mean?
Yeah. It was at the Feast of the Nonsense.
So it's stacked up against gravity. You've already disclaimed that there is an effect, regardless of how negligible you want to now decry it as. Well, that's a lot more than you've got with gravity now, isn't it, Anthony? So why the juxtaposition?
I want to attack that, if I can. that claimed effect. They haven't. Tony disclaimed it. There's a correlation, and a very poor correlation at that. There's no cause and effect here. Yeah, we've just got a very poor correlation between mass and this effect. But it's not a direct. It's not a direct effect. You can't demonstrate the effect. All you can show is, with numbers, a correlation.
Yeah, there's a claim that there is a flow of energy from the sky. Well, that's a claim that we don't actually see. So you're giving it more credit than what it's actually should be given, because we don't see any evidence of a flow of energy from the sky.
Right, so there. Stop, everyone, stop. Stop, everyone, stop. Hello, stop 1 second. That's where the parallel comes then, John. We were trying to figure this out yesterday. I'm just glad that you two have got there so quickly. Thank you. So the downward flow of energy from the sky is stacked up against the downward vector of 9.8 meters per second, making everything with a downward bias. So that's where the parallel comes from. That's where it's been interjected. Why we have to argue about, no, the reason gas goes down, go boom, boom, because we're all going to assume mass goes down, go boom, boom, is because of the energy flowing from the sky, making gas go down, go boom, boom. Again, enter Nathan. Hello? Gas doesn't go down, go boom, boom for either of you? Stone him!
Right, but there is an incoherent dielectric acceleration. It just moves to whichever area has less potential. You know, it's not necessarily down. It's not necessarily up. It's not necessarily sideways. It's just, you know, it's moving.
That's another mismatch. Now we're mixing static electricity and how it discharges with no direction, just based on ease of route. We're conflating that now with this statement of incoherent dielectric acceleration, which is still to be demonstrated and used, but we're conflating these known terms, which have no bias, or if anything, demonstrate the complete opposite of a bias. They'll discharge anyway, as long as it's the most energetically favourable. And we're comparing this again and trying to link it to gravity. But some of these things exist, some of these things are demonstrable, but none of them have any direct link. And fundamentally, as I say with statics, they deny there is up and down, because their discharge pattern is based nothing to do with up and down. It's to do with shortest energetic route to discharge.
Just one clarification. Right. When you say we are doing this, connecting it to gravity, no, Adam, you are far too kind to take such nonsense on your shoulders. No. When we, in the pre-show, talked about one of them, they do it, don't they? We don't do that, Anthony. Well, Anthony did it earlier, but we'll brush past that and we'll presume he's playing devil's advocate.
Yes. It's trying to understand what's being presented to you, is all I'm picking through there. I'm not trying to defend it. I'm trying to comprehend what the claim is. Because like I said, the claim fundamentally is based in statements of fact, but joining them together to make to be honest, an incoherent claim, because the statements of fact don't link to what your claim is.
I know how to end this. I know how to end this whole thing. Somebody's got to wax the wheeler guy.
No. But the thing is about the static discharge, you know, those are demonstrable effects. Nothing about gravity is demonstrable. But if you can get someone to compare those demonstrable effects to gravity, then the heliocentrist has already won.
Meanwhile, when asked, what is gravity? Response, we have no idea. Next question.
Right. That's it can be anything for them as long as it's a downward acceleration. That's all they're looking for.
And for the normies that might be listening, that's Neil deGrasse Tyson, who says, we have no idea. Okay, next question. When asked, what is gravity?
Right, so it's very useful to have somebody else on the opponent's side also claiming something going down, in this case energy transfer, to compare and contrast with their nonsense assertion of a downward bias with 9.8 meters per second being the accelerative force that they apply to it, i.e. gravity. Well, when they've got their claim and you've got your claim, then you can have a nice false dichotomy set up.
Yep. Right. And Neil, so you know that's a separate response from the same guy.
I got you.
Well, what gravity is how you stick to a ball. That's what it is in pretty much everyone's mind. It's what allows you to live on a ball. So whether it's the bending of space-time, a force, or an incoherent dielectric acceleration, as long as you're sticking to that ball, you've already lost.
That's correct. But they teach it in school. Come on. That's what keeps us grounded.
But no scientific evidence for anything we just talked about for the last 5-10 minutes.
No.
That's true.
Hell no. A good segue maybe to move on. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Nothing there, but just to reiterate Mitchell's point, that's what I'm kind of making with regards to the correlations. This is not science. We're happy to discuss it, you're happy to look at these things, but we can't state science. There's no science being presented. I said that there's no cause and effect. All we have to view data-wise is some correlation between mass and the downward acceleration that's being claimed. That is not science, is it? We don't have a hypothesis, we don't have independent variables, we don't know what we're going to manipulate to even elucidate the effect. All we've got is looking at stuff and taking numbers from it, and then ascribing a cause based on other statements of fact. But we're not testing no hypothesis here, are we?
What is mass anyway?
Nathan, you want to play a fun quote? It's in Master B.
I don't think we have an effect, Adam. I don't think things go down, I think things go in all directions depending on, their density relative to the medium they're in.
Science, we always say that you make observations, you have a theory, you go make more observations, and it's a very, very tedious process. Wrong. Nobody that I know of in my field uses the so-called scientific method. In our field, it's by the seat of your pants. It's leaps of logic. It's guesswork. It's guesswork. It's guesswork.
Very good.
Yeah, but didn't somebody come on and say that was just a part of what he was talking about? I'm not remembering correctly. That's not, I think it was, what's his name? The guy in Extremesis. Did he say that's not the right quote?
Do we need extremists to explain to us what the man just said in plain English?
Yeah, we played his words verbatim as he said them. I can't get any clearer. Nobody in my field uses the scientific method. It's leaps of logic. It's guesswork. I mean, how much more clear do you want to be?
Why would you?
I mean, of course, if there's a baller in here that wants to tell us exactly what he meant, even though we heard exactly what he meant, you can do that if you want.
He's got a PhD, hasn't he, Chocolate, this guy? Can he not describe what he wants accurately? I mean, I listened to that, I heard it, I think I understood it because it was in plain English. It was quite clear what he was making, and unless they're insinuating that this PhD dude can't express how he thinks and what he's thinking and how he actually conducts his daily work, that's what you've got to deny, is the plain English there, to try and give some apologetics for that. It's quite clear.
You have to, right? Because it's a devastating statement, especially when you're saying you're talking about science, and you've got here one of the premier quote unquote scientists of the world telling you nobody in my field even uses the scientific method. So would that be science without the scientific method?
Wait, how does he say it? He says uses, understands. What did he say? What did he stop saying?
That is.
Yeah. He was going to say understand, then he said that he stopped and said uses. Nathan, play it again. Play it again.
Science, we always say that you make observations, you have a theory, you go make more observations, and it's a very, very tedious process. Wrong. Nobody that I know of in my field uses the so-called scientific method. In our field, it's by the seat of your pants. It's leaps of logic. It's guesswork. It's guesswork. It's guesswork.
he said nobody he knows. He must know a lot of people.
I bet he does. Shout out to Central Goat.
I bet you.
It says,
He also said
Just one
in
sec.
our field.
just one sec. Shout out to Central Goat. He says, bendy water because bendy space-time. No. Thank you for the super chat, but no, bending geodesics in space-time aren't necessarily the same as their assertion that we do have a physical sphere Earth beneath our feet bending away from us at 8 inches per mile squared. Geodesics in space-time are different. Thank you for the super chat all the same. Really appreciate the support. Central Goat, by the way, is the guy that did the flyers.
What a guy. I like him.
Greatest of all time. So he said in our field. What field is he in, Chocolate? Astro.
I believe he's a theoretical physicist.
Astrophysicist, right?
Yep.
Huh. Guesswork, leaps of logic. Is that it's come down to? You can use your imagination. What if you had a spicy food the day before? What would you say the next day?
And he said nobody in his field. Wow. That's a lot of people.
Seat of the pants. My goodness.
Fetch me my silk toilet paper.
I think we can expand that when he says nobody in my field. I think we can expand that legitimately to nobody in the heliocentric field either does scientific method. They all fly by the seat of the pants.
Well, he is a heliocentric priest.
That's what I was getting at. He knows a lot of people, so they're all a bunch of pseudoscientists.
Yeah, but when you say he is a heliocentric priest, who is it we're talking about here?
Yukaku.
So when he says that, I think the context in which he's saying that is probably in either the field of astrophysics or theoretical physics, and he'll distance himself from the heliocentric narrative because he doesn't want to be in that field when he says that. So he'll just move the goalpost so he fits in a different field.
Maybe.
But remember, this is the same guy that in another quote describes science, saying usually in science, if we're off by a factor of 2 or a factor of 10, we call that horrible. We say something's wrong with the theory. We're off by a factor of 10. But in cosmology, if we're off by a factor of 10 to the 120. That is 1 with 120 zeros after it. This is the largest mismatch between theory and experiment in the history of science.
That statement demonstrates that he doesn't understand what science is, because in science you can't be off by a factor, right? It's binary. If A, then B, that's a 1. If A, not B, that's a 0. And upon experimentation, you get a 1 or a 0 result at the end. And only a 1 or a 0. That's all you can get, and what you will get. You will get a 1 or a 0 at the end of a properly devised and properly implemented experiment. You get a 1 or you get a 0. So him saying, if you're off by a factor of what, it was almost very nearly the cause, you complete clown? No, definitely not. Either it causes the effect or it doesn't cause the effect. Very much a binary outcome. Off by a factor, slap, slap, slap. You don't understand science, Michikaku.
Well, he did state that he didn't use the scientific method. So
yeah, but
no. He said in science, if you are off by a factor of
2 or a factor of 10.
Yeah, but he doesn't understand the scientific method.
That's what I just said.
Use it.
That's what I just said.
But he understands it enough to distinguish it between science and cosmology, right?
No, he doesn't.
So he's telling you basically that the cosmology is not science because it's not experiment.
I think that's the one extremist is talking about.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't understand.
About extremists, bro.
No, when he quantified, like Nathan said, when he quantified that if you're off by a factor of 10 in science, he doesn't know what science is.
It's on the screen, the Master
obvious.
B. It's on the screen, the Master B.
Usually in science, there you go. So he doesn't know what science is. If we are off by a factor of, no, first statement he makes, first words out of his mouth, demonstrate he doesn't understand what science is.
So then he's a pseudoscientist.
Yeah, well, shocking that a pseudoscientist that claims that everyone in his field doesn't use the scientific method wouldn't understand what it even is. Well, why would he need to? He doesn't use it.
That's telling.
Very good.
That's why it's one of my favorite quotes.
Thank you for getting it up on screen.
Extremists, you're probably listening and chat skanking. Why don't you come on and tell us what you think of this?
I am listening, but not chat skanking.
Did you have any objection?
Okay.
Somebody raised your name saying that you had an objection to one of these quotes. Neil, specifically
my
Neil.
objection was to whoever said, "Who cares about extremists?" That's my objection.
Fair enough. Took me a second to process that. It's very good. Almost 150 people watching. Thank you very much to all of you who shared the show. If you just joined us, a very warm welcome. Please share the show. Any evidence of the distance to the sun? Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No, that's just on the dingleberry that doesn't exist.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
We'd know it if there was.
Well, that concludes the housekeeping. Jolly good stuff. I've seen several commenters, well, 3, enough to me to make a comment on it, that have suggested that Brian, in one of his videos, has ascribed a height to the sun. Now, I've watched Brian's videos, and I couldn't figure it out from what the commenters had said. They didn't leave timestamps. Now, Brian's not here at the moment, but it was something I was going to quiz him on. Because I was like, what part of your video are they reading into to make that statement in my comments so overtly and repeatedly? Because I didn't get it from watching his videos, and I watch Brian's videos. So, you know, don't get me wrong, it's not like I'm glued to it 3 inches from the screen. I might be doing something. But by the same token, I didn't pick up on that from Brian's videos. Anybody else a fan of Brian watches?
I know Brian's position on this, and he doesn't assign a height. He says he doesn't know what it is. He just knows it's there, but he doesn't know what the makeup is or the stars or any of that stuff. So he's definitely hasn't done what they claim that he has done. It's just that when he shows parallel zeniths, it doesn't matter what the height is because it has nothing to do with that. And then he contrasts that with their diverging zeniths. So they may have tried to obfuscate that point he's making by assigning him something he hasn't said, is my guess.
I think I know where it's coming from, though. It's part of after you measure the flat plane and then you apply geometry, you know? So they're saying that their logical inference is him ascribing a height.
Hold on. Whoa. You're saying their logical inference is that during the process, but the process is celestial navigation and it doesn't utilise the height. So when he's not doing anything, he's just detailing what celestial navigation does, and at no point does it ascribe a height. Yeah, you could use the maths to do that, but Brian's also shown how that wouldn't work as you get further away and it gets lower to the horizon. So no, Brian's definitely not for that.
No, categorically. Over many episodes of Fed, me, Brian, 10th, have sat there and discussed how you cannot assign a height to an apparent position. You don't assign a height when you're doing celestial navigation. It's these relationships. I mean, you don't have to have the height. You get the information, the side length from the sky. And that's why you're doing celestial navigation, not basic trig, which is what they're trying to force and strawman onto Brian. But I think we've all been very, very, very clear. There is no height. No height is ever calculated. And there's no need to.
But that's right, whistling. Is it not just me seeing it as a whistle past the graveyard, considering that we're discussing angles that can only be taken from a plane?
Exactly. That's the part they don't want to discuss. But yeah, they're using, then after they whistle past that, then they're taking, like Adam said, a misinterpretation and then drawing an inference from that to say that he's ascribing a height when he's not.
We have a correction. QE said Kaku is a theoretical physicist, not an astrophysicist. There is a difference in the war room.
Yeah, I think, who was it that was nodding along? John realised that, but just didn't want to correct. Who was it, Neil? I lost track of who made those statements. Yeah, you just said it wrong. He's a theoretical physicist as opposed to, what did you say he was?
The physicist. That's the admission in his statement. He's stating that him and all his peers who ascribe to be theoretical physicists do not use the scientific method. It's a quite honest, clear, and true statement. He's been totally frank with everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's
you can't use the scientific method in astrophysics. It's a housekeeping question.
Yeah, I know, but it's not an excuse. It's not a reasonable statement because in the statement, right, he's saying theoretical physicist. Okay, well, both of those words have got really strong implications about what the meaning of those words. What's physics? Well, it's the study of the physical and natural world. That's natural science, isn't it? So he's got physical in his title. Okay, what about theory? Well, theory comes after experiment, doesn't it? Well, so theoretical sort of sounds kind of very sciencey, doesn't it? But yeah, you're disclaiming that the two words that are absolutely tied implicitly to the science of the scientific method are going to be your title that doesn't use it. It's like, what? Yeah, you're just a magician then, aren't you? And you've used some words from this other field to make your magic sound more legit than it really is. Theoretical physics. Well, that would be, in my mind, if you're talking about science, which you're definitely not, and disclaiming the fact that you're not, like it's an excuse, that would mean theoretical, the part that comes after experiment, and physics, the study of the physical and natural world. He's not doing any of it. How dare you give himself that title?
Can I say something?
I've got the dictionary definition, which will help.
Oh,
theoretical. Concerned with or involving the theory of a subject or an area of study rather than its practical application, in brackets, a theoretical physicist. Google just smashed him.
Yeah, but that theory, but that's the colloquial use of the word theory. I have a theory about how this occurred, Watson. That's a colloquial theory. However, contextually, when he makes his justification, it's in the brackets of science, isn't it? His justification's talking about it in that context. So he's not talking colloquially.
I think he makes, because the dictionary definition absolves him of any responsibility. Look, it's the last bit. Look, concerned with involving the theory of the subject or area of study rather than its practical application. That's physics, practical application.
I was going to say, then it's an oxymoron. So his title's an oxymoron. The not really looking at the physical, the ethereal study of the physical. What?
But remember, at the beginning of the quote, he is stating he's comparing science, right? So he's saying it's usually in science, it's you make observations, you got theory, and then more observations, and it's a very tedious process. Well, what did he leave out of there? How did he go from observation to theory? What there's certain parts he left out of there, right?
What, hypothesis construction and hypothesis actualization? Yeah, he left those bits out, didn't he?
Exactly.
What's his definition of science?
Can I say something?
Oh, we got some rumblings from Discord, I think. Who was that?
I'm just wondering what his definition of science is. Like, how do we know what science he's referring to? Because there's multiple definitions, right? I know the one we're talking about.
Well, he pigeonholes himself by saying physics or physicist. So immediately it's contextualised it around the physical because that's what that defines. So it's the theoretical physical. His title's an oxymoron.
Correct.
He also claimed experiment. He also claimed experiments and how they don't.
That's in the other quote.
I would like to say something.
Me too, Neil. Me too.
Okay, Neil, then Eli, go ahead.
I'm going to be real quick. Instead of chat skanking, QE, if we're doing something wrong, come in and tell us.
Whatever. Go ahead, Eli.
What's the difference?
Difference between what and what?
That's what we're talking about. John said there's a difference between theoretical physics and astrophysics. Explain to the audience what the difference is.
Oh, yeah.
Theoretical physics. I'll tell you, theoretical physics doesn't necessarily have to deal with the heavens.
There you go. The astro bit makes it much more specific then.
Okay.
Because obviously you need to be more specific than the non-physical physical that you're studying if you're a theoretical, hypothetical, ethereal, dealing with the physical when you're not dealing with the physical, because obviously that makes total sense.
Right. Well, Michio Kaku deals in string theory, and that's multiverse kind of nonsense. So he specializes in that nonsense instead of astrophysics, which deals in a second law of thermodynamics violation nonsense.
Oh, his nonsense is different. Oh, my bad. Different breed of nonsense.
That's why I've always said he spins a yarn.
Yeah, it's just a different kind of. It's like the difference between reading a book on Narnia and reading a book on, like Star Wars. You know,
some places
fiction.
They'd string you up for a pun like
that. Yes, but I'd be still hanging in there when they do.
Should string you up.
Give him enough rope. No, I mean, we're not going to wrap it up in cotton wool. At the end of the day, he is just a pseudoscientist.
Did you see him get triggered? Did you see him get triggered on that one interview where he was challenged on something that I believe related to his field, and he took liberty to say, "So are you one of those 9/11 deniers? Are you one of those conspirators?" And he just switched the subject to make that guy look like a conspiracy theorist because he didn't want to answer the question. He totally got triggered.
If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, hit the PayPal link and all that good stuff. Also, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!